Late one evening, Lisa stood at the edge of a long-abandoned train station, her phone flashlight barely cutting through the oppressive darkness. She'd heard the rumors, the stories of an artist known only as Spectre, whose graffiti murals were said to appear overnight in the most desolate and inaccessible places. For years, Spectre's art had been an urban myth, with whispered tales about how those who found his work would vanish soon after. Lisa was determined to prove it all wrong. Armed with a camera, a sketchbook, and a curiosity that often led her astray, she had tracked down her latest lead, an old freight yard on the outskirts of town, where Spectre's final masterpiece was rumored to be hidden. The air smelled of rust and decay as she made her way past crumbling brick walls and twisted metal fences. The silence was deafening, save for the occasional creak of the wind against abandoned rail cars. She almost turned back when she noticed something odd, a faint glow emanating from the far end of the station. Her pulse quickened. Following the light, Lisa entered a dark tunnel where graffiti stretched across the walls like veins on pale skin. The artwork was unlike anything she'd ever seen. Eerie, otherworldly figures painted in sharp, jagged strokes. Some seemed to move, their eyes following her as she passed. At the center of the tunnel stood the mural she'd been searching for. It depicted a cloaked figure standing on a train track, surrounded by shadowy faces. Beneath it, scrawled in blood-red paint, were the words, "When the train comes, you'll follow too." Lisa took a step back, her camera trembling in her hands. Suddenly, the faint glow flickered out, plunging the tunnel into darkness. And then she heard it, a distant rumble growing louder, the sound of an approaching train. The rumble grew louder, reverberating through the tunnel walls. Lisa froze, her breath catching in her throat. The tracks ahead gleamed faintly, as if anticipating the arrival of something ancient and sinister. She swung her flashlight toward the source of the sound, but there was nothing. No beam of light, no headlights piercing through the dark. Yet the noise persisted, a metallic screech, a ghostly wail. "Impossible," she muttered. This section of the line had been decommissioned decades ago. Then the air changed. A cold gust swept through the tunnel, carrying with it the unmistakable scent of burning coal and something foul, like rotting flesh. Lisa stumbled backward, her eyes darting toward the mural. The shadowy faces in the painting seemed to shift, their mouths curling into cruel smiles. A whistle pierced the air, sharp and deafening. Lisa dropped her flashlight, and it rolled across the ground, its beam flickering out. She scrambled to pick it up, but before she could, a wave of darkness engulfed her. In that moment, she swore she felt something pass by, cold, towering, and silent. The rumble ceased abruptly, leaving an oppressive silence in its wake. Lisa's heart hammered in her chest. Fumbling with her flashlight, she managed to turn it back on. The mural had changed. The cloaked figure now stood directly in front of her, its painted hand reaching out as if to pull her into the wall. She screamed and ran, her footsteps echoing through the tunnel. But no matter how far she went, the tracks stretched endlessly ahead, and the exit seemed to recede into the distance. After what felt like hours, Lisa finally stumbled into the open air. The cold night greeted her like a slap, but she didn't care. She was out. She collapsed onto the gravel, gasping for breath. The station was eerily quiet. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, jolting her back to reality. Pulling it out, she saw a notification. New message. The sender was unknown. Lisa hesitated before opening it. The message contained only an image. It was of her, standing frozen in the tunnel, the spectral train passing through her. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with terror. Behind her, the cloaked figure from the mural loomed, now more vivid and lifelike. Her hands shook as she stared at the screen. No, this isn't real. Her instincts told her to leave, but something compelled her to look again at the station. Through the gaps in the fence she saw movement. A shadow flitted between the abandoned rail cars. "Hello," she called out, her voice barely audible. No answer. Driven by a mix of terror and curiosity, Lisa climbed through the fence. The ground felt unstable beneath her feet, as if the earth itself resisted her presence. She followed the shadow, her flashlight flickering with every step. At the far end of the yard, she found a rusted train car. Its doors were slightly ajar, revealing a dim light inside. Against every ounce of logic, she climbed in. The interior of the train car was impossibly large, far bigger than it appeared from the outside. Rows of seats stretched endlessly, each one occupied by shadowy figures. They were unmoving, their faces obscured by darkness. Lisa's breath caught as she realized they weren't shadows. They were people, or what was left of them. Their skin was pale and translucent, their eyes sunken and lifeless. Some clutched tickets in their skeletal hands, their jaws frozen mid-scream.
"Welcome aboard."
The voice came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Lisa spun around, but the car was empty. A flicker of movement caught her eye. At the far end of the car, the cloaked figure from the mural stood, its head tilted as if observing her. "Why are you here?" it asked, its voice a low rasp. I was looking for the mural," Lisa stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. The figure chuckled, a sound that echoed like nails on glass. "You found more than that." Lisa stepped back, her flashlight trembling in her hand. "What do you want?" "You came to uncover the truth, did you not?" the figure said, taking a step closer.
"Now you must bear its weight."
The train lurched forward, the sudden movement throwing Lisa off balance. She grabbed onto a seat for support, her heart pounding. The passengers stirred, their heads turning in unison to face her. Their empty eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. "Let me out!" Lisa screamed, banging on the walls of the car. "There is no escape," the cloaked figure said, now only a few feet away. "You boarded the train willingly. Now you're part of its journey." Lisa's mind raced. She had to find a way out. Gripping her flashlight like a weapon, she darted down the aisle, pushing past the ghastly passengers. The figure didn't pursue her, but its laughter followed her like a shadow. She reached the end of the car and threw open the door, only to find another identical car stretching before her. The same passengers, the same oppressive atmosphere. "Help me!" she cried, but her voice was swallowed by the train's deafening roar. Lisa lost track of time as she moved from car to car, each one identical to the last. Her legs ached, her mind reeled. Just as she was about to collapse, she saw it. A door at the very end, marked with the word "Exit." Summoning her last ounce of strength, she sprinted toward it. The cloaked figure appeared in front of her, blocking her path. "You cannot leave," it said, its voice a chilling whisper. "This is your stop." "No!" Lisa screamed, pushing past it. She reached the door and flung it open, plunging into a blinding white light. The morning after Lisa's harrowing ordeal, she locked herself in her apartment, determined to make sense of what had happened. Her mind raced with questions. What was that train? Why did the mural seem alive? And who or what was the cloaked figure? She turned on her laptop and began searching for anything about the abandoned station and its eerie mural. Hours passed as she combed through obscure blogs, forgotten urban legends, and grainy photographs of the city's history. Slowly, a chilling story began to take shape. Decades ago, the station had been a bustling hub of activity. Commuters swarmed the platforms, rushing to catch the trains that wove through the heart of the city. But something darker had always lingered beneath the surface. According to old news clippings, the mural had been commissioned by the city in the 1920s as a tribute to progress and innovation. Its creator, an enigmatic artist named Victor Silvan, was a recluse with a fascination for the supernatural. Witnesses claimed that Victor often painted late into the night, muttering incantations in a language no one could understand. When the mural was unveiled, it was hailed as a masterpiece. Critics marveled at its haunting beauty, but the public reacted differently. Some claimed the figures in the painting followed them with their eyes. Others swore they heard faint whispers emanating from the wall. Tragedy struck a month later. A commuter train derailed in the station, killing everyone on board. Witnesses described seeing a ghostly train speeding through the tunnel moments before the crash. Victor disappeared soon after, leaving behind no explanation for the mural or its eerie connection to the accident. Over time, the station fell into disuse, its history buried beneath layers of urban development. But the mural remained, its power undiminished. As Lisa delved deeper, she discovered something that made her blood run cold. A faded photograph from the 1920s showed the mural in its original state. The figures were unmistakable, shadowy passengers seated on a spectral train. At the center of the mural was the cloaked figure. But what caught Lisa's attention was the woman standing at the edge of the tracks, a figure identical to her. Her hands trembled as she stared at the screen. How could this be? The mural was painted long before she was born. Yet there she was, frozen in paint, a silent witness to a tragedy she had no part in. The thought struck her like a thunderclap. What if the mural wasn't just a painting? What if it was a trap, a gateway between the living and the dead? Unable to shake the feeling of being watched, Lisa ventured out days later. She avoided the station, but couldn't resist visiting the city's other forgotten corners. Something compelled her to look for signs, an inexplicable pull toward the shadows. It was during one of these walks that she found it, the new mural. It was hidden in an alley, partially obscured by ivy. The scene was unmistakable. Her face, her terrified expression, and the ghostly train looming behind her. But there was more. The mural depicted other figures, 2 men, women, and children, their faces twisted in fear or despair. At the center was the cloaked figure, its hand outstretched, as if offering a macabre invitation. Beneath the painting, scrawled in blood-red paint, were the words, "When the train comes, you'll follow too." Lisa stumbled back, her heart pounding. She wasn't alone. A group of people stood nearby, staring at the mural with vacant expressions. "Have you seen it?" one of them asked, their voice hollow. Lisa hesitated. "Seen what?" "The train. Once you see the mural, it comes for you." Unable to shake the feeling of being watched, Lisa ventured out days later.